My name is Griffin Callahan, and I'm 35 years old. For the past 15 years, I've worked as a field coach in regional baseball leagues across the Midwest. It's not glamorous work, but I love it. There's something pure about watching young athletes discover their potential, about being part of that journey from high school dreams to college scholarships, and sometimes, if they're really special, to the minor leagues. I met Jenna Whitmore when we were both 19, back in Columbus, Ohio. She was studying journalism at Ohio State, and I was already working my way up through the coaching ranks. We clicked immediately. She had this fire in her eyes, this determination to make it in sports journalism. I admired that about her. For 13 years, we built a life together. I thought we were a team. When Jenna got offered a position with a Fox affiliate in Cincinnati 3 years ago, I didn't hesitate. I sold my 2018 Honda Civic, packed up my life, and followed her. I took temporary jobs, equipment management, groundskeeping, anything that kept me close to the sport I loved while she pursued her career. I believed in her dream, maybe more than she believed in mine. The thing about working in baseball is that you develop a network. Coaches, scouts, players, media personnel, we all know each other. When you've been around as long as I have, you become a connector. I introduced Jenna to contacts who could help her career. General managers, veteran players, rising stars. One of those introductions was Eli Maddox. Eli was 20 years old, a shortstop from Indiana with a cannon arm and lightning reflexes. I'd worked with him during his senior year of high school, helped him refine his batting stance. The kid had genuine talent, the kind that catches scouts' attention. When he got drafted by the Cincinnati Reds farm system, I made sure Jenna knew about it. "This kid's going places," I told her. "Get an interview with him now before he becomes untouchable." If you enjoy stories of cold-blooded revenge and gripping plot twists, like this video and subscribe to the channel now. There are brand new, unreleased stories here every day, each one more intense than the last. Looking back, I can see the signs I missed. Jenna started working longer hours, claiming she needed to build her portfolio. She'd come home energized in a way I hadn't seen in years, talking about opportunities and connections. She started mentioning Eli more frequently, his training regimen, his statistics, his potential. I thought it was professional enthusiasm. The Home Run Derby was scheduled for July 15, 2025, at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. It was going to be a big event, broadcast nationally, with several rising stars participating. Eli had earned a spot, and Jenna was assigned to cover it. She was excited, more excited than I'd seen her about any assignment. "This could be my break, Griffin," she said one evening in March, her eyes bright with ambition. "If I can get exclusive access, build relationships with these players before they hit the big leagues, I could be the next Erin Andrews." I supported her like I always did. I helped her research the players, shared insights about their backgrounds and playing styles. I even reached out to some contacts to help her secure better access for interviews. I was proud of her dedication, but something felt different. There was a distance between us that hadn't been there before, a distraction in her eyes when we talked. I told myself it was just the pressure of a big assignment, the stress of trying to make her mark in a competitive field. The truth hit me like a fastball to the chest on a Tuesday morning in April. Jenna had left her iPad on the kitchen counter, and a message notification popped up while I was having coffee. I wasn't snooping. The screen was right there, lit up with her conversation thread with her colleague Sarah from the station. "If I stay close to Eli, my career explodes," the message read. "This kid's going to be huge, and I need to be the journalist everyone associates with him." My blood went cold. I scrolled up, my hands trembling slightly. The conversation painted a picture I'd been too naive to see. Jenna wasn't just covering Eli professionally, she was sleeping with him. "He's young, ambitious, and let's be honest, gorgeous," she'd written to Sarah. "Griffin introduced us, which is ironic. He has no idea how much this relationship could change everything for me." Sarah had responded, "Girl, you're playing with fire. What about Griffin? Griffin's sweet, but he's stuck in small-time baseball forever. Eli's my ticket to the big leagues. ESPN, Fox Sports, maybe even a book deal if he makes it to the majors. I set the iPad down carefully, my hands steady despite the earthquake happening inside my chest. 13 years. 13 years of supporting her dreams, of sacrificing my own opportunities, of believing we were building something together. And I was just a stepping stone she was ready to abandon. The rational part of my brain told me to confront her immediately, to demand answers, to let my anger explode. But I didn't. Maybe it was all those years of coaching, of learning to read situations before reacting. Maybe it was the part of me that had always been strategic, patient. Or maybe I was just in shock. Instead, I did something that would prove crucial later. I took screenshots. Over the next few weeks, I watched Jenna with new eyes. She'd come home from interviews with Eli. Glowing with excitement, she tried to pass off as professional enthusiasm. She'd talk about exclusive access, about how Eli trusted her, about the special relationship they'd developed. Every word felt like a knife twist. "He's opening up to me in ways he doesn't with other journalists," she'd say, sitting across from me at dinner. "I think I'm really getting through to him." I'd nod and smile, playing the supportive boyfriend while my world crumbled. The worst part wasn't even the betrayal. It was the casual way she dismissed our life together, as if 13 years meant nothing compared to a career opportunity. I started paying closer attention to their interactions. Jenna would get texts at all hours, claiming they were work-related. She'd disappear for research sessions that lasted until midnight. When I asked about her stories, she'd give vague answers about building trust and long-term relationship building. The breaking point came in early June. Jenna had left her phone charging in the bedroom, and I heard it buzzing repeatedly. When I glanced at the screen, I saw Eli's name with a stream of messages. The preview showed enough. "Can't wait to see you tonight," and "Griffin suspect anything?" That's when I knew I had to act, but not the way she'd expect. You see, there's something Jenna never fully understood about my work in baseball. Yes, I coached young players, but I also handled equipment, managed video systems, and worked with broadcast crews during games. I knew how media operations worked from the inside. I understood the technical side of sports broadcasting, the computer systems, the file management protocols. More importantly, I knew people. 15 years in the business meant I had contacts everywhere, from equipment managers to broadcast technicians to front office personnel. When the home run derby announcement came out, I made some calls. "Hey, Marcus," I said to a friend who worked as a broadcast technician for Fox Sports, "you guys need any temporary help for the derby? I've got some experience with the equipment." Within a week, I had a temporary position as a media technician for the home run derby broadcast. I'd have access to the media servers, the internal communication systems, and most importantly, I'd be working behind the scenes where I could observe everything. Jenna was thrilled when I told her. "That's perfect," she said, kissing my cheek. "We'll both be there. It's like the universe is aligning for us." I smiled back, but inside I was thinking about something else entirely. I was thinking about justice, about consequences, about making sure the truth came to light in a way that couldn't be ignored or explained away. The universe was aligning all right, just not the way Jenna expected. The home run derby was set for July 15th, and I spent the weeks leading up to it learning everything I could about the Fox Sports media systems. Marcus gave me access to training materials, and I studied the file management protocols, the internal communication networks, and the content distribution systems. I told everyone I wanted to do a good job, to maybe open doors for future opportunities. That wasn't entirely a lie. What I was really doing was preparing for the most important moment of my life. 3 days before the derby, I was working late in the media center at Great American Ballpark when I overheard Jenna on a phone call in the hallway. She thought she was alone. "No, Sarah, Griffin has no idea," she was saying. "He's so focused on his little coaching career, he can't see the bigger picture. Eli and I are perfect together, professionally and personally. Once his career takes off, I'll be right there with him." "What about Griffin?" Sarah asked. I could hear her voice through the phone speaker. "Griffin's been a good stepping stone, but that's all he ever was. He helped me get established, introduced me to contacts, but he's small time. I need someone who can take me to the next level." That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about stepping stones, about 13 years reduced to a convenient phase in someone else's career plan. But I didn't let anger consume me. Instead, I focused on what I needed to do. The night before the derby, Jenna came home excited, almost giddy. "Tomorrow's the big day," she said, wrapping her arms around me. "This could change everything for us." "I know," I said, kissing the top of her head. "I'm proud of you." It wasn't completely a lie. I was proud of what she'd taught me about myself, about what I was capable of when pushed to the limit. The derby day started at 5 a.m. I was at the ballpark early, setting up equipment and running system checks. Jenna arrived around noon, professional and polished in her navy blazer and press credentials. She looked beautiful, confident, ready to seize her moment. "Wish me luck," she said, giving me a quick kiss before heading to the media area. "You don't need luck," I told her. "You've got everything you need." The event was electric. 8 of baseball's most promising young sluggers, including Eli, were competing for the title. The crowd was huge, the energy infectious. I watched from the media booth as Jenna worked the crowd, interviewing players and coaches with the kind of enthusiasm that had made me fall in love with her years ago. Around 4 p.m., between rounds of the competition, I saw Jenna and Eli disappear into one of the auxiliary media rooms. These rooms were used for private interviews, editing, and equipment storage. I knew the layout well by then. What I also knew was that these rooms had security cameras for equipment protection, and that the feeds went directly to the main media server. More importantly, I knew that sometimes in the excitement of a big event, people forgot they were being recorded. 20 minutes later, I was monitoring the media feeds when I saw them. Jenna and Eli in the auxiliary room, but they weren't conducting an interview. They were in each other's arms, kissing passionately. Jenna still had her press credentials around her neck, her Fox Sports microphone clipped to her blazer. I watched for a moment, feeling strangely calm. This was it, the evidence I needed, recorded by the station's own equipment, time-stamped and undeniable. But I didn't need to do anything dramatic. I just needed to make sure the right people saw it. I made a copy of the footage and saved it to a secure folder. Then I did something beautifully simple. I added it to the evening's media package that would be automatically distributed to the station's executives and department heads for review. It was standard procedure. All event footage got reviewed by management. I just made sure this particular clip wouldn't be overlooked. I also sent a copy to 3 additional recipients: the station's Human Resources Director, the Fox Sports Regional Compliance Officer, and Tom Mitchell, an investigative journalist from the Cincinnati Enquirer who'd been covering ethics violations in sports media. By 6 p.m., as the derby was winding down and Eli was celebrating his third-place finish, I was already hearing whispers in the media center. Phone calls were being made. Serious conversations were happening in corners. Jenna found me as I was packing up equipment. She was flushed with excitement, practically bouncing on her toes. "Griffin, this was incredible," she said. "I got amazing access, exclusive interviews. I think this could be my breakthrough moment." I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt something I hadn't expected. Pity. In a few hours, her phone would start ringing. Her career would implode. Her relationship with Eli would become a liability instead of an asset. And she had no idea it was coming. "I'm sure it will be," I said quietly. "You've definitely made an impression." We drove home in comfortable silence, Jenna chattering about the event and her plans for the follow-up stories. I listened and nodded, knowing it was probably the last normal conversation we'd ever have. The call came at 11:47 p.m. Jenna's phone rang, and I watched her face change as she answered. "This is Jenna." "What? No, I can explain." And just like that, 13 years of my life came to an end. But for the first time in months, I felt free. The conversation lasted 43 minutes. I know because I timed it while I packed my clothes in the bedroom. Jenna's voice went through every stage of crisis management: denial, anger, bargaining, and finally, a desperate attempt at damage control. "It was a momentary lapse in judgment," I heard her saying. "It doesn't affect my professional integrity." "No, sir. I understand the severity. Yes, I realize the policy implications." When she hung up, she found me in the bedroom, my duffel bag nearly packed. "Griffin, I can explain," she said, her voice shaking. "It's not what it looks like." I stopped folding shirts and looked at her. "What does it look like, Jenna?" She hesitated, and I knew she was calculating, trying to figure out how much I knew. "Someone sent footage to the station. It's being taken out of context. Eli and I we were celebrating his performance and you happened to be making out with him while wearing your press credentials," I said calmly. "While you were supposed to be working. While you were in a relationship with me." Her face crumpled. "Griffin, please, I made a mistake. I got caught up in the moment. It doesn't mean anything." "You're right," I said, zipping up my bag. "It doesn't mean anything. That's exactly the problem." The next morning, I drove to my brother's house in Dayton. By then, the story had spread beyond the station. Tom Mitchell's article in the Cincinnati Enquirer ran with the headline, "Fox Sports Journalist Suspended After Ethics Violation at Home Run Derby." The article didn't mention names, but everyone in the industry knew who it was about. Over the following weeks, the full scope of the consequences became clear. Fox Sports conducted an internal investigation and terminated Jenna's contract for violating their professional conduct policy. The footage was damning, not just the kissing, but the clear violation of journalistic ethics, the abuse of press access, and the potential conflict of interest. Eli's situation was equally devastating. His agents dropped him after the scandal broke, worried about the impact on his marketability. 2 major endorsement deals fell through. The Cincinnati Reds, concerned about their image, reassigned him to a lower-tier farm team in Tennessee. His promising career wasn't over, but it had taken a significant hit. But the most satisfying part wasn't their professional consequences. It was watching their relationship crumble under pressure. Without the excitement of sneaking around, without the career benefits Jenna had been chasing, what they had wasn't sustainable. Eli was 20 years old, facing the first major crisis of his career. Jenna was 32, unemployed, and toxic to potential employers. They blamed each other for the disaster. I heard through mutual contacts that they broke up 6 weeks after the Derby. Eli publicly distanced himself from Jenna, claiming she had manipulated him. Jenna, in turn, suggested that Eli had pursued her unprofessionally. Neither version was flattering to either of them. As for me, I found peace in the most unexpected place. I took a job coaching high school baseball in Springfield, Ohio, a small town about an hour from Columbus. The pay was modest, but the work was fulfilling in ways I'd forgotten were possible. These kids reminded me why I'd fallen in love with baseball in the first place. The pure joy of the game, the satisfaction of improvement, the bonds formed between teammates. One of my players, a sophomore named Danny Martinez, reminded me of Eli at that age. Raw talent, incredible potential, but young enough to be molded the right way. The difference was I was teaching Danny about character, about integrity, about how the way you conduct yourself off the field matters as much as your batting average. "Coach Callahan," Danny asked me one day after practice, "how do you know if you're making the right choices?" I thought about that question for a moment, watching him pack his gear with the careful attention of someone who respects his equipment. "You ask yourself if you'll be proud of your choices 10 years from now," I said. "And you remember that shortcuts usually lead to dead ends." 6 months after the Derby, I ran into Marcus at a sports bar in Columbus. He bought me a beer and asked how I was doing. "Better than I expected," I told him honestly. "Turns out getting your life back is more valuable than I thought." "You know," he said, leaning back in his chair, "I always wondered how that footage ended up in the media package. Someone would have had to manually add it to the distribution list." I took a long sip of my beer. "Must have been a system glitch." He smiled. "Must have been. The truth is, I don't feel guilty about what I did. I didn't plant evidence or fabricate anything. I simply made sure the truth was visible to the people who needed to see it. Jenna and Eli destroyed their own careers with their choices. I just refused to help them cover it up. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd confronted Jenna directly, if I'd fought for our relationship, tried to work things out. But I know the answer. I would have been prolonging the inevitable. She'd already made her choice. I just made sure there were consequences for it. These days, I sleep well at night. I wake up excited about practice, about working with young athletes who still believe in the purity of the game. I've started dating again. Nothing serious yet, but I'm open to the possibility. This time, I'll be more careful about recognizing when someone sees me as a stepping stone rather than a destination. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and leave a comment telling me what you thought. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to get alerts for new stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.